learn to heal yourself first. It's work, but so is taking antidepressants, and so is getting sick, and so is feeling bad and not wanting to get out of bed. It's all work. You can choose to do it in a healthy way where you put yourself first, or you can choose to numb yourself with other things, with sex and alcohol and drugs. And I think personal development is so important. All the things that you focus on, Amy, about wellness, and not just obviously fitness and nutrition, but emotional well-being and mental well-being and spiritual well-being. Put yourself first. Before you have children, before you choose a partner, learn to heal yourself first.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Today, my guest is Rachel Isabella, who was located in Argentina, although she was originally from Florida. And she is an expert on forgiveness, particularly for women who, for one reason or another, grew up without their fathers and have a sense of rejection and deep emotional pain, and all that would be entailed with such a situation. Rachel is a single mom, and she specializes in working with women who grew up for one reason or another, either physically without their dad or had an estranged relationship with their dad, which resulted in very specific emotional wounds that she very much understands because she grew up with the same. So I love this show so much because, once again, we're talking about relationships, which really is the juice and the whole meaning of life. Relationships not only with ourselves, but with others. For they are truly the school of life where our soul is here to learn the lessons that really make it all go around. So if you or anyone you know has issues with feeling abandoned or rejected in some way, or just have an estranged relationship with your father, or if you have children whose father is not in the picture, or perhaps you are a man who's had children and you have an estranged relationship with them or not in the picture or something of that nature, or you know someone that does qualify with any of the previously listed categories, this show is for you. My guest, Rachel, is really a living expert in this field, and I think you're going to find her very, very helpful. We talk about the feelings of unworthiness that can come from such a profound sense of rejection. And we have to talk about boundaries, of course, when it comes to this, emotional boundaries and self-love, because it's all wrapped up in the same soup. And Rachel gives practical, real-life examples of what that means to set some boundaries. And we actually call it boundary baby steps, and how you can start to build your boundary muscles, because I know I've had issues with boundaries, and a lot of people do too. But boundaries are super critical to protect your emotional and mental health and to continue on and to heal. Rachel also gives her advice for women who are parenting as a single parent and whose fathers are not in the picture, and how to do that. And she also gives her 6 tips for why you should forgive. Very, very powerful. And I just want to point out, if this type of topic is of interest to you, you might be interested in episode 72, where I talked more about relationships with a psychologist, Dr. Waylon Myers, and we talk about nonviolent communication and ways to communicate with people. It's a powerful episode and very, very popular. And episode 74, where I talk about, personally, it's a solo cast where I talk about dealing with trauma, emotional trauma, and mental health and painful emotions. So 74 is on trauma. That's another episode that might be of interest to you. So Here we go, everyone. We're now going to join Rachel Isabella.
Rachel, welcome to Awakening Aphrodite, and tell us where you're located right now.
Hi, Amy. Thanks so much. I'm an American expat, but I live in Argentina. So I've been here for almost 16 years.
You're actually in Argentina. Oh my,
Yeah.
Amazing. Now, where are you originally from?
I was born in New York. I was born in Queens, and then I spent most of my life in South Florida, in West Palm Beach. And then I've been here for the last 15, almost 16 years.
Amazing, because you have no accent whatsoever. I didn't know that you were in Argentina as we speak.
Because I'm 44. I mean, I grew up in the United States. So yeah, no accent. I have an accent in Spanish, actually.
Oh, very cool. I'm jealous. I'm trying to learn Spanish. My Spanish is horrendous, and I've lived in Miami and stuff, and you really need to learn Spanish in Miami. Well, good, great. So tell us about your work, Rachel. What do you do, and what sets your heart on fire?
So I'm a forgiveness coach, and I work with fatherless daughters. So I prefer to work with women who are fatherless daughters in the same way that I am fatherless, just because it's easier for me to understand. But women can be fatherless if their father physically abandoned them, if their father was around but emotionally absent, like mine, if a father died before they could raise their child, or if let's say your mother doesn't know really who your father is, and so your only way of contacting them or finding them is doing like a DNA thing on Ancestry or something like that. So it's a very specific wound that it can manifest itself in many different ways. The large umbrella of it is unworthiness, and that unworthiness can show up as promiscuity, or emotional shutdown, or neediness, or codependence, or hypercriticism, hyperdefensiveness. It can, what are called daddy issues, which is, according to a lot of women that I work with, is a very derogatory term, because it's dismissive and it's minimizing. It minimizes very real pain, and it's many times used to shame a woman for being promiscuous. So I use the term father issues. It's basically the same thing. It just means that because you were raised with this lack of love, however your situation was, it created in you a sense of unworthiness that then manifests itself in a myriad of ways. So that's what I do. I help women heal that unworthiness and forgive their past.
Right. Okay. So there's so much I want to get into with you on that. And yeah, it's fantastic. I find it interesting that you use the word fatherless, because I mean, technically no one would be here without a mother and a father, right? So the fact that you refer to as fatherless, can you tell us a little bit more? Because we know the power of words, right?
Yeah, I think sure, biologically you need that, but emotionally, when a father isn't there, when a daddy isn't there for a woman, it's a wound that is, because of what it does to your self-esteem, and then you do things on the level of your self-esteem. I'm married at the level of my self-esteem. We all do. We all couple and attract at the level of our self-esteem.
Yes.
So sure, biologically, no, you can't be fatherless, but emotionally, you can be, and it's a very deep wound.
Well, I think what's really interesting is how, what people don't have wounds with our parents. Our parents are our soul's life school, if you will, of what our souls come here to incarnate, the lessons we need to learn, right? And so much of our psyche and our mindset is based on the parental upbringing we've all had. And who doesn't have an issue with their parents about something? And I'm sure it goes both ways, right? So how is it that for your work, is there like a degree of conflict, if you will, with the father that a woman has to feel like she has in order to really, I don't want to say qualify to work with you, but really be on that level of, okay, I have issues with my dad, as opposed to the normal, just different people issues?
Yeah, no, there has to be a real a wound of having been rejected. So I felt rejected by my dad, even though he lived in the same house with me, because he couldn't have cared less. He had other interests. He didn't, he wasn't involved in my life. in terms of helping me with homework, in terms of, teaching me, giving me the daddy advice or whatever. Most women know when they have it. I don't work with everybody because there are people who are stuck in unforgiveness. There are people who say, I will only forgive when they apologize. There are people who are very much stuck in being a victim, and they don't realize that they have the power to heal, and that their healing has nothing to do with the person that hurt them, but with themselves. And so I have a hard time getting through to someone like that. But when someone is tired of feeling pain and says, you know what, I know I need to forgive, I know I need to heal, I just don't know how, that's a person I can work with. So it isn't about how much you've suffered, it's how far along are you in your healing journey. If you're way at the beginning, I find it hard to kind of snap you out of where you are. But if you're kind of down the line, I can help you the rest of the way.
How much of our victimhood is just because we're just so hurt? I'm so sad. I'm so hurt that this happened. This is why I can't forgive. I mean, is that a stage 2 of forgiveness? You got to get past a certain level of hurt?
I think the ego has a lot to do with it. So I'm really into personal development, and I love people like Marie Forleo or Jay Shetty or Gabby Bernstein, who go on and on about personal development and have such a broad appeal, because people can learn about the ego and how when you start recognizing your ego and you become more self-aware, you can see something from someone else's perspective. You can choose to see something not as the victim, but from an empowered place of, I have this life to live and I want to live it as best as I can. So rather than continuing to complain about the past, I'm going to heal it. I'm going to focus on the present and the future.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, empowerment really is self-responsibility. And so people love the word empowerment because it sounds amazing and it sounds like you're strong and all that, but it comes with work. It comes with change, and change is scary. And so that's what I help people with. That's what I can help someone with who is scared of the change and wants to be empowered, but just doesn't know how.
And you help them actually get over the hurt. How do you do that? Like, how do you repair that wound that's so deep from a parent?
Well, so here's the thing. There will always be pain, unfortunately. So I have forgiven my dad many times over. I don't see it as he's the bad guy and I'm the good guy. I don't see it like that at all. I think he's perfect the way he is and I'm perfect the way I am. But in this life, we're just not going to get along. There's some pain that will always be there. So when I see, for instance, a father and a daughter dancing at her wedding, I cry because I know I won't have that. So people need to know that there will always be some pain because it's painful. It's painful to not have had your dad love you or anything like that. But what we do is we work on mindset and changing it. We work on acceptance and grief and boundaries and self-love and accountability. And there are all kinds of things that I help someone with in my sessions to kind of shift them from where they are into a mentality of healing and personal growth and self-awareness. And then they can continue without me. But the shift, the kind of push that I give has to do with, first of all, accepting what was, and acknowledging it and grieving it, kind of like the 5 stages of grief. There is an element of that to it. And then changing your mindset around, victimhood versus empowerment. So that's what we do.
Okay. Now, how much of, because you had said that what's key is for these women to feel rejected by their dad. So that, what Amy thinks is rejected and what Rachel thinks is rejected might be 2 different things. So where does our perceived reality as opposed to absolute reality come in for the client? Like she thinks she was rejected, but maybe her dad was just working like 4 jobs to keep bread on the table type thing. So he wasn't around, so where do you get into the perceived reality of your clients to figure out, okay, what is really kind of accurate?
So the perceived reality, if it's something like that, where a father can show his side of the story and kind of apologize for it or what's the word? Not excuse it, but justify it, then there's a really good chance of reconciliation or building a relationship. But what you perceived is what you feel. It's yeah, what you get into your brain, your brain and your feelings are connected. And so if you perceive that your father is rejecting you because he's out of the house, or because when he's in the house, he ignores you, that is very, very real. It's your real truth. It might not be the truth, because there are obviously two sides. Mm-hmm. And it might be that your dad was very busy. It might be that your dad was raised in the boomer generation and had no idea about feelings or communication. Mm-hmm. It might be that your dad was an ass and you just got that. And there's not much you can do with that. So sure, it is perceived and it might not be accurate, but that's all we have to work with, because that is what has contributed to their pain.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. And, our perception is our reality, regardless of what the absolute reality is, right? And often we kind of perpetuate it ourselves. So, what comes to mind is, what about, in our culture, a big part of my show, Awakening Aphrodite, we talk about really getting women to be more whole in who they are and their masculine and their feminine essence, and uniting both parts of those things in themselves. And with that always comes up of the current society being a patriarchal society in the last several thousand years. But, men have suffered a lot too, and men have had to be the stoic ones, right? Yep. Just, not have feelings. And it wasn't masculine to express any weakness or feelings. And they had to just work and produce. And they didn't have the luxury to really feel or go there. So how much do you think, and I'm just curious with, your expertise in this, like how much of, helping the women heal is an understanding of maybe some of these men weren't emotionally available because they just didn't know how to be. So how maybe that could help the woman forgive the man? Like, is there any kind of you trying to teach them to be a little bit empathetic or compassionate, or look at it? Yeah, is that involved at all?
Absolutely. So like I said about the boomer generation, there's this great line that happens in the show Friends, where Ross finds out he's going to be a dad, and he goes to dinner with his dad, and he asks him, Dad, were you nervous? What did you think when you found out that, Mom was pregnant with me? And his dad says to him, we didn't think about having kids back then. We just had them. Mm-hmm. And so in that one generation of just, well, I guess we're supposed to have kids now, to trying to be mindful about it, there is a huge shift. So absolutely, the ability to see the other perspective, to get out of your own perspective and see someone else's, is fundamental. Now, it could be that by seeing that and by understanding it, you get to healing. But I have worked with women who have narcissistic fathers who are still in their lives, who will never change. And it isn't a matter of understanding them. It's a matter of accepting that you will never have what you want and putting up really good boundaries. And
where does the gratitude come in? I know it sounds crazy, particularly when you have such a deep wound, but where does the gratitude come in for your clients? Or maybe you don't teach people to have gratitude for it because it's all it, right?
No. I do teach gratitude because you are who you are because of this pain. Mm-hmm. And so there is a moment in a session where we list the wonderful things that have happened in your life and the things that you are specifically because of this person in your life, or the things that you have. So maybe because you had a dad who didn't show you love, you created a really great relationship with an uncle or a grandfather or a teacher, or maybe you have resilience or high sensitivity because of this. And you know that it's because of the pain that you felt. So there's absolutely an element of being thankful for the pain and seeing what wonderful things were created because of it. Absolutely.
I'm so glad that you said that. That's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, that's very encouraging. Now, what about the father that can't repair the relationship with their adult daughter because they have so much guilt? They almost can't reach out. So the daughter's waiting for the dad, like, he's the one who should reach out. He's the one who left us. And, the dad wants to, but he just is so overwrought with guilt. I mean, is there any help for that woman to deal with that?
Great question. I don't know. I think that as long as a person is open to growth, there is hope. So I did not speak to my dad for 22 years. I stand by that. I was fine with it. And he contacted me in December and basically said, what do you think of us, kind of starting over? I want you to know that I've forgiven myself.
He said that?
Yes, he did.
He's forgiven himself. Oh, wow.
Yes. And I thought, how interesting. I said to him, what did you forgive yourself for? Because I did not hear an apology. And he's almost 70. And unfortunately, he seems to believe that apologizing is beneath him. It's a matter of pride. So I think that if a father at any age, it isn't about your age or what generation you belong to. It's about how willing are you to change and say you're sorry and be humble and become aware and choose to personally grow and say, I have fewer years left than I'd like to think. I have no idea when it's going to end, and I don't want to leave this life, So his invitation to a reconciliation included, I want you to know that I've forgiven myself. And so I basically said to him, you know what? You are the exact same person. I can't believe this because I'm so dedicated to personal growth. I am not the same person I was last year. So to think that 22 years later, he's the same person was shocking and disappointing. And it kind of, it left me really unsettled for quite a few weeks. Look what it does to me. It blows my mind. I know that there are men his age who are aware and who do want to reconcile. I would tell any daughter that if your father is willing to reconcile truly, it's kind of like when someone in a marriage cheats. And so they go to therapy and the therapist says, are you willing to repair this? And the person says, yeah, no, I'm not. Well, then it's over. But the person says, I am so sorry. I am absolutely willing to explore the reasons why I did this. I will be completely trustworthy and I will show you these ways. It isn't even about fathers and daughters or husbands and wives. It's how willing are you to grow?
And take responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it is so easy, I think, to forgive. The easiest forgiveness is when someone comes and obviously apologizes. It's much harder to forgive when you're never going to get it because they're not going to ask for forgiveness or they've died. You can obviously do it. I forgave him before he's never asked me for forgiveness and I've already given it. As long as someone is willing to look at themselves and humble themselves, a reconciliation is possible. If they're not, I know a lot of women who go no contact like me, just because that is the boundary that needs to be put up for them to protect their heart. And I get it.
How did you come to the place to be able to forgive your father, Rachel?
It happened over many years. I knew that so because I also do energy work, I do Reiki and I work with crystals, and I'm a huge fan of Louise Hay. I was hyper aware that what we feel gets stuck in our body. And so when I left I left a very toxic marriage, and I went to someone and I said, I'm very angry with my ex-husband. Of course, I chose him from a place of pain, but I'm very angry and I do not want this anger to get stuck in my body. So I was very aware, because of energy healing, how emotions can get stuck. And I knew that the one person I really needed to square things with was my dad, because it's a rejection that's painful and that influences, so many decisions that you make. So it came from there. And I went through two separate, growth spurts, you could say. The first one was because I always felt I was not worthy of him because he didn't love me. If he didn't love me, it's because there was something wrong with me. So the first shift that I made was to build myself up, my self-esteem, and think of it as he was not worthy of me. Because when he loves, he's very stingy and he just gives breadcrumbs, like I mentioned in his email. And I love well. If I love you very much. And I am generous and encouraging and I am present and all that. So I went through many years where I flipped it and I said, he is not worthy of my love, not the other way around. And then one day it was, there is no superiority. There is no good versus bad. He's perfect the way he is. I'm perfect the way I am. And in this life, we're just not going to be together, which is more like a more evolved way of looking at it. And it's also a much more peaceful way of looking at it, where you can accept someone as they are and just say, I accept you as you are. I don't expect you to change, but I'd really rather not have you near me because I deserve something else, or, you know. So there are in a healing journey, there are many times where your state of mind will change depending on what you need to work on at that time.
So what's interesting to me is what I've learned in my own personal healing journey from some of the deep core wounds that I've elected to have in this go around the planet.
Yeah.
Rachel, what's gotten me through is a deep, deep sense of connection to divine spirit and the universal all, and that it's a loving presence. And when I had to heal some of the deep wounds that I had, really the only thing for me that allowed it to heal is that really solidifying that connection with source. And I wonder I just don't know how other people actually would ever be able to truly heal the parent wound without thinking of source really ultimately being from elsewhere in the first place. You know what I mean? Otherwise, anything to me would seem to be just a pathetic substitute, frankly, you know, for something else. You know, what else could heal that wound of where you come from, your essence, your core, your source, than having I don't want to call it God, but just a belief in something else. So how do people who don't believe in something else heal those deep wounds? I mean, really heal them?
I don't really know. I think it's easier if you believe in God or spirit and all that. I think it's much easier. I also think it's easier when there's a greater force, because there is a humility that you have to have in front of it. And the same way you become humble in front of spirit, you become humble in your self-awareness. So moving, like we said, from victim means that it's an easy place to be. It's a comfortable place to be. And there is no growth. And I think that, I don't even really know how to express it. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I don't really know how someone who believes in absolutely nothing heals. Maybe they don't. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't.
Mm-hmm. Something to think about, right? Or just for our audience and all of us to really consider.
I think everyone that I've worked with has had some kind of belief, whether it was a religion and they thought, of it as Jesus, or just, in a large way like you and I, and we call it spirit. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I worked with anyone who thinks, no, it's this life and there's nothing else. And when we die, there's nothing. And I'm not sure I worked with someone like that. And I think that when you believe in something greater, it is easier to heal. Because you also feel like, I've come this far in my journey and the rest is just too painful and I have to give it up to God.
There you go.
There might also be an element of that, of I'm going to work as hard as I can, but I'm going to need some help. Mm-hmm. And I think if you don't feel supported that way, it must be a much harder journey.
And that's where the word surrender comes in that we hear so often, and the first step is being humble. I love that you're mentioning that, is that I don't know what to do. I've tried everything my little ego brain personality can try, and I have to offer it up, because surrendering isn't just giving up and throwing in the towel. It's opening. So to me, surrendering is opening to another way, being receptive to let it in, being open. Yeah. And too many people are too fixated because they're protecting themselves, or, like they don't, they don't want to take the criticism or whatever, or they just, they don't want to feel that lack of control, because being surrendering and opening is a complete, it's a, what's it called? A trust dive. You have no idea, no idea at all. So I often say on the show, it takes courage to live. I mean, live, not exist, live. takes courage because it's
Yeah.
so much of the unknown. And that's what, back to my comment earlier, I really just don't know how people don't believe in something to give them courage to go into the unknown, right?
Yeah, unless it's someone who feels that this is their only life, and so they're going to make the most out of it. And so why would they spend their time harping on this one person who let them down, and, you know, being determined to live life as full as possible? That I can see happening.
I love that. That's a great point. Yeah.
Right. Well, you don't need God to inspire me. You are inspired by the fact that you have no idea when this is over, and there is no time to spend on this person. I'm going to look forward.
I love that.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Yeah.
That's a great point, Rachel. Right on. I love it. Okay, let's talk about boundaries. Okay, boundaries is huge, 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 huge. So please just educate us, share with us what you've learned about boundaries, why they're important, how to set them. Maybe you can give us a few examples, practical examples for people, because I'm sure a lot of your clients have a really hard time setting boundaries. So tell us the tips that will help us.
Sure. So first thing is, people need to know that boundaries are about self-love. They are not about being mean. The same way people think that forgiveness is something that you do for the other person and know it's something that you do for yourself, boundaries are something that you do for yourself. It is a way of protecting yourself. And you can obviously have physical boundaries and you can have emotional boundaries. So boundaries are kind of difficult because women have a very hard time usually saying no, because they're taught to be nice. And they're taught to be, you know, willing and available and open. And so sometimes just the word no is scary, and no is a boundary. I'm not available at this time. I'm available at this time. A lot of boundaries is people are raised and they don't always take the time. Like, when would you, unless you do therapy, to ask themselves, what is it that they want? What kind of life do they want to live? And then to see who in their life helps them with their goals. And anyone who doesn't needs to go. And needs to go in the sense that if you don't want to obviously cut someone out of your life, then you limit time, or you limit what you tell them. You know, you don't tell them all your secrets. You know, that's also a boundary. I've noticed a lot of people who come from maybe a family where parents are very, very important, and you don't go against the family, where the unit is very, very important and more important than you. To be a black sheep or to kind of want to leave the tribe is a very scary thing, because it isn't just, you're not putting up boundaries as a normal process. You are telling your parents that you are unhappy maybe with how they do things. So saying no to family dinner because your parents, you know, harp on you about whatever they might harp on you about. A lot of people just saying no to that instead of going every week, going every other week, or going once a month. It doesn't have to be no contact. It can just be, I have a boundary of how often I see my family. Or if my family asks me a question about something that I don't want to answer, I say, you know, I really don't want to talk to you about that. And it sounds like you're being mean, and you're not. We just need to get over the idea that it's mean. Boundaries are about self-love.
Right on. And how about, though, the people that are afraid to set that boundary, to draw that line in the sand, Rachel, because they fear rejection. They fear the backlash of, like, what do you mean you're not coming to dinner? You know, or whatever, you know? So how do you help? What would you say to people who are like, I know if I set that boundary, I'm going to get a whole rash of crap?
You need to be willing to take it. You need to love yourself enough to be willing to take it. You can obviously start out slow when it comes to boundaries. Mm-hmm. I always look at it as, I thought it was a good example, but then there are parents who are very, very lenient. When you think about your child and putting up boundaries with your child, that is not scary. Usually, it's not scary for me. I've been putting up boundaries with my son since he was born. And usually because of that hierarchy of father and child or mother and child, it feels easy. So if you want, you can always start with your boundaries with someone where you know that what you say goes. And then it's obviously harder to do the boundary with, let's say, your parent or your boss, because you see them as higher than you in a way. So if you can approach putting up boundaries with your parents or with your boss the way you would with your child, you are coming at it with a really good mindset, with a very healthy mindset. Because most people have no problem putting up a boundary with their kid, whether it's the phone or the TV or homework or friends or going out or grounding, they have that really clear. So that same energy that you put into that boundary, then turn around and see how you can do it with a parent. And it might be awkward at first. It might be much safer to do it over the phone where you can hang up than if you do it in person. But it is step by step. It is something that you get better at with practice.
I love that, Rachel. Boundaries, baby steps.
Yes.
Baby
if
steps.
They're too scary, you take baby steps, sure.
That's a great way to think of it. Like, even just practice with, I think the key with the boundary setting, fear or inability, is because of the emotional connection. Like you said, it's a big jump to try to set a boundary with someone that you're emotionally tied in with.
Yeah.
So maybe practice those boundary muscles by, the person at the store, or, like somebody you don't know, or, things that you're not things that you're not emotionally attached to. When you're buying something in, online or whatever, and just taking those time to say what you're wanting and needing and putting it out there without fear of, I'm going to get this person upset, because you're not emotionally tied into that person to really care that much if they're upset with you, and then build from there.
The other thing that happens is a lot of people start putting up boundaries by saying no and giving an excuse, which is fine. You need the safety blanket.
Justifying the boundary.
I can't go because I'm sick, because I'm tired, because I have to work, and you put your kids, because my kid has something. There will come a time where you'll say, I can't do that. Oh no, what's wrong? I just can't do that. Or I don't want to do that. And you might not say that on the first try. It's okay. Give the excuse, as you're learning.
I'm so glad you said that. That's so
also a
key.
step. Sure.
You don't need to justify your needs or your boundaries.
You get to say no.
Then that's probably boundary graduate school. Being able to do that is like an elevated level of boundary ship. But wow, one that we can all aspire to. Rachel, you're now a mom. How has your journey thus far and your relationship with your dad and even your own mom affected the way you parent?
The way I parent. So I'm a Gen Xer. So I'm kind of old school with some rules, but I also teach him a lot about ego and self-awareness. So he's kind of really well developed for being 13. I have a really good relationship with my mom. There's a lot of communication. I would say I'm kind of old school, but at the same time, I try to bridge it with these new ideas of emotional well-being and listening to his needs or his feelings, and obviously taking them into consideration, which not a lot of people did if you grew up, like I did in the 80s. Parents really weren't aware of emotional well-being or emotional intelligence or emotional health. So I think I bridge both of them pretty well. Unfortunately, my kid is also fatherless in the sense that his father isn't present. His father lives in another country and calls maybe once a month, and they talk for 2 or 3 minutes. And so he isn't physically present and he isn't emotionally present. And for a long time, my kid was fine. My kid, as a little boy, got whatever he needed from me and from my mom. And very recently, he asked to go to a therapist, which I thought was great. So I got him a male therapist that he feels really comfortable with. So he has a male figure in his life that he can talk to. But unfortunately, it's also something that he's going to deal with. This idea of being fatherless, where you don't have wonderful memories, or, because in my mind, living in another country when we have Skype and Zoom and all that is just no excuse. So he does feel that pain of being rejected by his dad. So
what would you want the parent that is there to know to help their child who doesn't have the father in their life?
I love to get to people young, because if I get to you when you're my age and you've already had a really toxic marriage, or you've already started parenting and you're still in pain, there's a lot more to work with. But if you have a child who's fatherless, as much as you can, let them know that it has nothing to do with them. It wasn't them.
Yeah.
Because the immediate response of a child, like when mom and dad get divorced, oh, was it something I did? The same thing. If daddy is not around, it must be because I'm not cute enough. I'm not lovable enough. I didn't get that good grade in school. So as much as you can, help your child understand this has nothing to do with you. The dad doesn't know how to communicate. He doesn't care. He whatever his failing is, there's nothing you could have done about it. And if you're open to therapy, which I am, get your kid into therapy. Get them a child psychologist, someone that understands this, because the sooner you heal this pain, this wound, sooner you're made aware of it, and you start recognizing your ego and all that stuff, then you will learn to put up boundaries. You will learn to choose a partner from a healthier space. Fundamentally, they need to know that it wasn't them. And I tell that to my kid. Yeah.
And two things come to mind with that, Rachel, is that even if the child is maybe not even of age to be able to speak about it, or even if they're not speaking about it, or they are saying, oh, it doesn't bother me, I don't care, or whatever, it's got to, right? It's got to, on a deep subconscious psychological level, for what we referred to earlier was that, that parental wound, the mother or father wound is deep. And even if your child is saying to you that doesn't bother me, it's got to, right? I mean, how could it not? Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought my kid was, and I think for a long time he was, like, he got whatever he needed from, like a little boy, that what he most wants is his mom. But, at 13, at 12, you might have questions that you don't want to ask your mom, and there's no one else around to ask. Mm-hmm. And I knew that at some point he was going to feel the pain. At some point he was going to feel the abandonment, the rejection, which is okay. I mean, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. Mm-hmm. If you know that there's someone out there who never calls you, who doesn't show any interest, who doesn't send you anything for your birthday, at some point it's going to hurt your self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And so the sooner my son can, get into therapy and get better, I'm fine with that.
All right. Now, and you as a single mom, Rachel, the traditionally the role of the father was to provide, to profess, and to protect, the 3 Ps, right? Yeah. So for your son, how do you feel like those holes will be, or those gaps will be filled for him? Like, you are now taking on both, or, all the roles? Where is he going to get that from?
I don't know. It might be from this therapist. It might be some from me. It might be from, his karate instructor. It might be from a teacher that he really forms a really good bond with. It might be from his older half brother, because he has a half brother who's 9 years older, and who, even though I'm no longer married to his dad, I keep in touch with my stepson, and there's no break in the relationship there. I'm hoping he will get it, maybe in smatterings of different places, but that he will find inspiration on how to be a man, however he defines that. Mm-hmm. And whatever he doesn't, he will learn to ask for it, I guess, from his therapist, or from a book, or from spirit. I'm not sure. It might be that he receives it from several different places.
Yep, agreed. That's beautiful. Rachel, your website is fantastic. You have a wonderful blog that I definitely would love people to check out, because you have a lot of beautiful articles that are really content rich. And I don't mean long in length. I mean substantial, like good stuff. It's not just like
Thank
fluffy.
You so much.
Yeah, no, right on. I just wanted to point out that you have a beautiful blog on why people should forgive. And there's 6 things you list. And you say, because it sets you free, because it leads to peace of mind, because by having peace of mind, you become better at manifesting the things you want, because it helps you rewrite your story, because removing resentment and anger can help heal your physical body, and lastly, because you deserve it.
Yeah.
You want to comment at all on any of that?
No.
I know that's about it, huh? That about wraps it up.
I mean, I could probably come up with more reasons. There's so many reasons to forgive. But that was a pretty good summary of if you don't know why you should forgive, if you're still kind of stuck in anger and resentment and you think it's about them, it isn't. It is about you. So, I'm so happy that you brought up the blog because I put a lot of myself into it and
it shows.
Thank you so much, Amy. You just made my day.
All right, my friend. Well, it's a service to humanity, and this is what we're talking about. And you being grateful for what happened to you and the pain of you not having that connection with your father is look at this beautiful gift you are now giving others. And that
I'm aware of it. I'm aware that because of my pain, thanks to him, I now do what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can't really learn from someone unless they have lived it. You can read every book in the world on how to make a garden or whatever, but until you get your hands in the dirt and you're out there learning from trial and error, you're not a gardener, right? So
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, and what I'm trying to say is that the posts on your blog, it comes through. Every one of your posts is like, okay. Like, I didn't have time to read your whole blog, but I ended up spending a lot more time than I wanted to because it was so good. I mean, every article was like, this is fantastic. Like, this is fantastic. So you obviously have walked the walk and you would be a wonderful guide, companion to assist someone else on their journey. In my opinion, I think it's fantastic.
Thank you so much for that, Amy. Wow. Really,
you're very welcome,
thanks so much for that. Yeah.
Is there any other wisdom that is really on your heart at the moment that you would not feel complete in today's show without sharing with people?
I think that the sooner you can start to heal, the better. It's work, but so is taking antidepressants, and so is getting sick, and so is feeling bad and not wanting to get out of bed. It's all work. You can choose to do it in a healthy way where you put yourself first, or you can choose to numb yourself with other things, with sex and alcohol and drugs and all kinds of different things. But I believe we have many lives, but a lot of people believe you only have one. And if you only have one, get going, because you never know when it's and even if you believe like me that you have many lives, make the best out of this one because you have no idea what's coming in the next one. You have no idea what you suffered in the last one because you don't remember it. I think personal development is so important. I think people put so much importance in getting the right partner or having the great group of friends, all the things that you focus on, Amy, about wellness. Not just obviously fitness and nutrition, but emotional well-being and mental well-being and spiritual well-being. Put yourself first. Before you have children, before you choose a partner, learn to heal yourself first.
And even when you do have them, keep yourself on the list.
Yes, continue.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's just so beautiful. Wow. Rachel, thank you so much. Please tell people how they can find you. And again, everyone, this will be in the show notes too, in case you're driving or walking or working out and can't write it down.
Yeah, so my website is healsinglove.com. And I'm on Instagram also as healsinglove.
Fantastic. And you do personal consultations?
I do one-on-one coaching, yes.
Coaching. Okay, great. They can reach out to you digitally. It doesn't have to be in person.
Absolutely. Yeah. On my website or on Instagram.
Yeah, like you're in Argentina right now, for example, and I'm in the United States. So there you go.
And thanks to the internet and Zoom, I can work with people anywhere. Yeah.
I remember that every time I want to throw my computer out the window and it's not cooperating. I'm like, wait, there's a lot of good about this thing. So I'm not going to totally trash it. Great. Wow. Thank you so much, Rachel Isabella, for being on Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier.
Thank you, Amy. I was so happy to get to be here.
Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier. And I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's AMYFOURNIER.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com, and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also FitAmyTV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.